Thank you very much. I appreciate you organizing this wonderful visit. Thank you very much. And of course, to all the members of the board, the World Affairs Council, and I'm together with my colleague from the embassy, Jose Luis Kaiser. We were delighted when we knew that we had the opportunity to come here, thanks to the invitation of the World Affairs Council. Also, with the opportunity to inaugurate, the president inaugurating this wonderful exhibition at the Mint Museum today, the Picasso Landscape Exhibition, which is, of course, I would say a few words of how we see the world today and how we see, as you mentioned, the relations between my country and the United States and the present situation in my country. I think we started the 21st century with three huge revolutions in the world, three great evolving situations. The first one, of course, the hyperconnectivity due to globalization. The second one, the rapidly increased acceleration of the scientific and technological revolution. And the third one, the change in the dynamic of the power system in the world with the rise of Asia and the return of China to the global stage in the world. I think these three main revolutions are at the heart of the changes and the challenges that we're seeing in the world, at the root of these challenges. The first one, of course, there have been many positive things because of these changes, especially the acceleration of the technological revolution and the connectivity, the interdependence caused by globalization, but also huge challenges. The first one I would say is the rise of inequality in the world. And this is a very important, crucial issue. There's been an increasing gap between winners and losers of globalization, an increasing gap between productivity and salaries, which is not good at all. Up to the end of the 20th century, productivity increased and we saw an equal increase in salaries. Since the end of the 20th century, we're seeing productivity increases with such a rise without seeing the rise in salaries. And this is causing at the same time a rise in populism, a rise in nationalism, frustration with democratic values, frustration with democratic systems and representative democracy. And also, we're seeing what we can call technological disruptions. A digital gap, we're seeing the threat and the danger of misuse of artificial intelligence, we're seeing disinformation, we're seeing the danger of social media. And if we add to that the global changes of climate change, of food crisis, of nuclear proliferation, of terrorism, and if we add to that the inability of the multilateral system to address these issues in an efficient way, we can understand why there is a feeling that we're living in a world of uncertainty, that we're living in a world of crisis. And indeed, we have to agree that the world order, as we have seen, is questioned, is in crisis. The world order that it seems in the Second World War, based on democratic values, based on the rule of law, based on a liberal order, is in crisis. So we're seeing this explicitly shown in Russian aggression in Ukraine. It's a blatant aggression and an ignorance of the basic rules that we're talking about, and the basic rules that are enshrined in the Charter, in the UN Charter, and in the modern international law, which is respect for the sovereignty and the independence of nations, which is respect for territorial integrity and the integrity of borders, which is, at the end, respect for peaceful means as a way of resolving conflicts, and the avoidance of threat or the use of force in the relations between nations. So no doubt that the world order is in crisis. So the question arises, what next? What is the world crisis that we should be working for? And I think we can agree, at least in Europe, in the United States, hopefully in Latin America too, I believe so, that this world order might be a post-Western world order, because there are other elements. It's certainly a post-European world order. But we need to fight so that the values that are at the heart of this Western world order, respect for the rule of law, democratic values, respect for human rights, democracy, fair elections, remain at the heart of the new world order, because they are universal values. The second thing is that we need to humanize globalization. We need to reduce the gap between winners and losers of globalization. We need to make it a winner for every single person in the world. The third thing is that we need to strengthen the values of representative democracy. Sometimes representative democracy is messy, it's complicated to understand. It seems easier to believe in popular governments, in populist governments that give solutions, quick solutions to everything, at least apparently. But the truth is that there is no other system, better system, to organize our societies than representative democracy. And finally, we have to find a more inclusive, a more efficient multilateral order. And for that, it's crucial the transatlantic relationship. It's crucial that we have transatlantic cooperation. Of course, it means a very strong relation between the United States and Europe. Of course, this is the basis. But it's not enough. We have to reach out to Africa, we have to reach out to Latin America. I want to say a word especially about Latin America, because Latin America, they share our values. They share the same democratic aspirations that we have in Europe and in the United States. And they do so because they come originally from these Judeo-Christian values that Spain brought to the Americas in the 16th century, in the early 16th century. And also because when they became independent from Spain, Latin American countries looked at North America and your new constitution, at the American Constitution, as an example for their own constitution. They share our values. They should be included in what we call transatlantic cooperation. But we need to look also to Africa, because Africa is the continent of the future. There is a tremendous population growth, and there are many opportunities, but many risks also coming from Africa. So we need to reach out so that we include them in this aspiration for a new, better world order, and they don't fall into the hands of Russian models, authoritarian models, Chinese models. They're active in Latin America, they're active in Africa, and we should be active too. And let me say a word about precisely what I think Spain can do in this search and this construction of a new world order. Spain is a strong, committed, democratic country. According to the Economist, relations of the only true democracies in the world, the only true 20 democratic countries, Spain is one of them, and we're proud of that. We had a transition to democracy in the 70s, and we're very proud of our strong democratic credentials. We have also a very strong commitment to multilateralism, and we're part of all the efforts in the United Nations, in the OSCE, in the European Union, to be part of any peaceful operation, peacekeeping operation. We want to be part of the search for a better multilateral order. Third, we are one of the few countries that can say that we are, of course, a European country, but we are an American country. Because of our history, you cannot understand Spain without America, but you cannot understand America without Spain either. And we're also a Mediterranean and African country, not only because of our geographical location, but we have been in Africa for a long time, and we have a very strong attachment, especially to northern African countries and to the Mediterranean. So this positions us in a very good way to build bridges in the world and to try to attain a common approach to what we believe should be a world of cooperation and not of confrontation. Finally, I would have to say that Spain is in a good situation right now. We underwent a very serious crisis, the 2009-2011 crisis, that obliged us to undertake very important reforms, financial reforms, labor reforms, internationalize our economy, and there is examples of that. Companies from Spain all over the United States You've probably seen them around also in North Carolina. And we have a huge opportunity now, and Jose Luis Kaiser can explain that if you're interested, with what are called the EU Next Generation Funds. We have mutualized our debt after the pandemic in Europe, and now Spain is getting already about 140 billion euros, which is a lot of money for our standards. 140 billion euros, half of it in loans, half of it in grants, for the reform of our economy. And we're going to use it in three main pillars, not very different from what the new funds in the US are going to be used to. Three main pillars: the digital transformation, the green transformation, and the social transformation. And I emphasize the social aspect because the Spanish government is very keen on taking this opportunity to reduce inequalities and to make sure that everybody has access to a good public health, to a good education, which is crucial. And by the way, I'm extremely pleased that we have so many young people from high schools here. I'm delighted. I think you're right that this is the future. But I'm also very pleased because in my personal history, I decided to become a diplomat, to devote my life to foreign relations when I was in high school. I was at a boarding school, an international boarding school in Wales, in the United Kingdom, with people from all over the world, and understanding that we're all exactly the same. We had people from Israel and from Palestine, we had people from China, from Russia, from the United States, we had people from India and Pakistan, we had people from all over the world, and it was very clear for all of us that we were all the same, that we were exactly the same, and that there was no way that we could prejudge any one of us. We could only be judged because of our efforts and because the way we worked, the way we studied, and the way we were, but that there was no difference whatsoever. And I decided that I would devote my professional career to keep on working for international understanding, to building bridges between people, between societies. And so I'm very happy to have you, all of you, here. Of course, the position of Spain is also important because of being, as I said, an American and a European country, very active inside the European Union. And we will be holding the presidency, the rotating presidency of the Council of the European Union. We know that every 6 months we change the presidency of the Council of the European Union. It's a way to have everybody included. And we will start holding the presidency on the 1st of July, 2023. And we're very committed to have a very active presidency devoted to solve the problems that are on the table, including maintaining the solidarity between the transatlantic cooperation and between the unity between the members of the European Union. And also, we will start our presidency with a big summit. It's been many years that we didn't have that kind of a summit between Latin American countries and European countries. What we call the EU CELAC meeting that will be held in July in Europe, and this is an important matter. But another issue which is very important is our bilateral relation with the United States. I always say, many of you have been in Spain, you see the transformation in my country. Huge revolution in our country. There's been a tremendous change in the last 50 years. And now we're a modern society, a very open society, technologically advanced. You've been probably, some of you were telling me how you were impressed by our high-speed trains, by our roads, by the vibrancy of our cities, Madrid, Barcelona, and so many others. But it's been thanks to three main factors. The first one is the effort of the Spanish people that had decided that we couldn't miss the opportunity of transforming our country in this late 20th century, beginning of the 21st century. We had missed the opportunity in the previous century, but we didn't want to miss that opportunity. There was a consensus, a general consensus, that we had to work hard together to transform our country. The second was obviously that we were members of the European Union, which has great advantages, and we can talk about it too. And we received structural and cohesion funds, and we were able to work with our colleagues in the European Union to make this transformation happen. And the third thing is our friendship with the United States. This friendship was already clear in our first treaty in 1953. It's 70 years now, what we call the defense agreement with the Eisenhower administration. And it's been 70 years of extraordinary cooperation in the fields of security and defense. You have thousands of troops in Spanish bases in Rota and Moron. We're negotiating now on another agreement to have 2 more destroyers at Rota. But it's not only that, it's also in the field of trade. Our trade in both ways is very high. It's terms of investment. When I was here, as you mentioned, I was here in the late 80s. If anybody would have told me that Spanish investments in the United States would equal or surpass American investments in Spain, I would have said, no way. Because at that time, of course, your investments were crucial to the development of our nation and were very important. But nowadays, there are companies like Iberdrola that have invested here more than 40 billion US dollars, and that's giving jobs, creating tens of thousands of jobs, and many other companies. So we're now at the same level. Spanish companies have invested here. And last night I met a gentleman from Spain who had invested here already something like $40 billion, and they were going to invest another $100 million. So I'm seeing this trade and investment relation increase. And also very, very important, the huge increase in the student exchanges. Students and teachers. Last year, we had 7,000 young Americans, boys and girls, who came to Spain to teach English in our schools. 7,000. And when they come back, I'm sure that they're all ambassadors of Spain in the United States. And last year, we had 600 Spanish teachers teaching here Spanish in the schools in different states, all over the country. This is crucial. Apart from that, we have thousands of students, not only to teach, but to study in Spain. We're talking with you. Many of you told me my son, my daughter was there or is there, and I'm very pleased because this is at the heart of what is a strong bilateral relationship, people-to-people relationships. And I'm extremely pleased that this is growing very quickly and that American universities, American schools are accepting more and more Spanish students, and on the contrary, that American Spanish universities and Spanish schools are accepting many American students. So we have in front of us a very good, very strong relationship based on our cultural affinity, based on our common values, but based also on our history. Spain has been here in what is now the United States of America for centuries. And we were talking last night at dinner when it's not so well known that the first city in what is now the United States of America was St. Augustine, founded at the beginning, at the middle of the 16th century, way before the Mayflower. That was the time when we had here the first hospital, the first civil register, the first town hall, the first church. This was in St. Augustine, and then in Pensacola, and then in so many other cities that you can recognize by their names. Santa Fe, San Antonio, San Diego, Los Angeles. So many other cities around the United States that are proof to the presence of Spain in this country from the 16th century. And then there is another event that not many people know about, which is support of Spain to the Revolutionary War, support to Washington and his troops. And that was also crucial in the winning of the War of Independence. And of course, apart from that, we now have the growth of the Spanish language and the presence here of so many Spaniards, so many Spanish companies. So we have a great future in front of us. We have to work together. We have to work together to strengthen our bonds, but we have to work together to create a better world. And I'm sure that the United States and Spain are going to do that in the coming years. Thank you again very much, and I'll be very pleased with Jose Luis to be able to answer any questions you might have or listen to your comments. Thank you.
We have the daunting task of trying to entertain questions from this group. I'm sure there's lots of them. We thought we'd start with a couple of high school students, and for those of you who remember the Waddell Language Academy, it is now the South Academy of International Languages, and I'm told that we've got one question delivered by two students, one in Spanish and the other who will translate for those of us who are not multilingual, including me. So where are we? There we go. We have the English, or excuse me, the Spanish question first. Get a mic over there so you can hear these things. Please, if you just stand up, tell us your name and the question, which hopefully is going to be a sentence or two.
Hello, my name is Dee, and I'm from the Academy of International Languages. And I wanted to ask, do you guys offer scholarships for international students?
Okay.
Yes, there are quite a few scholarships that many different institutions offer, both for students, high school students, and also for postdoctoral students. And we have different institutions, including, for instance, the Fulbright Commission that offers the possibility of studying in our universities, both in America and in Spain. So yes, there are many opportunities, and we'll be happy to provide you with information about these opportunities of studying abroad.
Thank you. And so, general public out there, just get my attention, raise your hand, and we'll get to you. But let's go to Charlotte Country Day. David Lynn is the leader of that pack, and a question from you guys. Here we go.
Hi, my name is Aryan Chopra, and I'm a junior from Charlotte Country Day School. You talk a lot about diplomatic relations more than just transatlantically. And so recently Spain and Morocco have been rekindling their relations. And I was wondering, well, what changed? And also, what is the significance of that for North African and European relations in the future?
Well, thank you. That's a good and difficult question, but, but you're right. I mean, there's been a rapprochement, there's been an easing of certain difficulties with Morocco. It's only normal. We're border countries, we're neighbors, and it's only normal that we have some tensions and some difficulties sometimes. It's the usual thing that happens with neighbors, as with brothers. But the truth is that we're brothers, and that we are obliged to understand each other, we're obliged to cooperate. We have about 1 million Moroccan citizens in Spain. We have about 1,000 Spanish companies and tens of thousands of Spaniards in Morocco. So it's natural that we should understand each other. And that is why Spain and Morocco have made an effort to put aside the difficulties, and some of them are clear, they're not a secret. We have still 2 Spanish citizens inside of what Morocco considers their territory, Ceuta and Melilla. They've been Spanish citizens, Spanish territories for many, many centuries, but Morocco claims these cities. There are tensions produced precisely because of this huge presence of Spanish companies and Moroccan companies and citizens in Spain. But we've made a great effort because we understand that we cannot let the tensions overcome the many things that unite us. Also, I think it's important to take into account, and I think you were a bit pointing to that direction, because of the Abraham Accords, which I think have created another dynamic in the Middle East and relations between Israel and Arab countries, including Morocco, which provides an opportunity for cooperation and stability in the region, which I think Spain acknowledges. So all these reasons are at the heart of this effort that we're making to have a closer, a more, let's say, stable relation with Morocco.
Thank you, Ambassador. One or two? Yes, John Gallis.
I haven't been able to keep up with it, but has Spain and the United Kingdom reached an accommodation over the Isle of Gibraltar?
Yes, we have reached, after Brexit, we have reached 4 agreements on specific questions, but there is not yet a final agreement regarding the relation between Gibraltar and the European Union. But yes, we've taken the opportunity of Brexit, which obliges us to rethink our relations with Gibraltar inside the European Union, not only Spain, I mean the whole of the European Union, because now obviously Gibraltar is out of the European Union. And so we are obliged to find an understanding. The final understanding with the European Union is being negotiated, but we've had in the meantime these 4 agreements, specific agreement on taxations and fight against illegal traffics and specific issues. We've reached agreements with them.
Do you see it as near future or sometime away?
The agreement? Oh yeah, it should be in the near future. It shouldn't be too complicated. I mean, inside the union we should be able to it's not always easy because we're 27 and so finding agreements at 27 takes time. It takes time. And Jose Luis has been negotiating many trade agreements inside the union and he knows how difficult it is. But at the end, we reach agreements.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Santiago Cabanas y soy estudiante en Harvard University High School y nosotros queríamos saber cuál sería el proceso para los refugiados de Ucrania para que ellos puedan obtener ciudadanía española.
Good afternoon. My name is Evelyn Romero. I'm a student at Harvard University High School. And our question is, what is the process of obtaining citizenship? Like all the refugees from Ukraine coming over to Spain.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your question. As I mentioned, Spanish people have been very generous in accepting refugees, 160,000. We've offered them immediately residence permit. We've offered them immediately schooling and health system for all of them, especially the children. That's one of the reasons why they came to our country, apart from being an open country, Spain. But we have offered them access to our wonderful health system, free health system, access to our education system for the children, and residency. So they're residents, legal residents in our country for the moment. Nationality is a different issue. It's not so easy to get nationality. Our laws establish a period of 10-year residency for foreigners who want to become national. It's much easier to become resident and national, but it's not very different from all the countries in the world, including the United States. One thing is to become a legal resident, one other thing is to become a national. So in Spain it's 10 years of legal residency before you can become a national, with a few exceptions. And that is an exception for Latin American countries. It's 2-year residency, obviously because of the special relationship that we have with Latin America. We're part of Latin America, we feel part of Latin America. As I mentioned, we feel an American country, and that's why there is an exception for Latin American countries. There is an exception too for descendants of Sephardic Jews. So Sephardic Jews can access to nationality either directly through a special law for them or after 2 years residency. And you can access also very quickly to nationality through marriage with a Spanish citizen and residents in our country.
Thank you. And Carmen, I'm told that everyone of note in Barcelona knows who Carmen Hilton is. So this is a question that comes from some history. Let's make it quick though, Carmen.
What do you want me to ask?
Whatever occurred to you on your way over here?
I'm enchanted to be from Barcelona, Spain, and I'm Spaniard before being Catalan.
There you go.
Española, catalana, de pura cepa. Viva España. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carmen.
Thank you. It's such an honor to have you here, Carmen. I'm very pleased. I had heard about you and I hadn't had the opportunity to meet you. It's an honor for me to meet you, and I'm really very grateful for all that you have done to keep together the Spanish citizens here in Charlotte. It's been a long drive here in Charlotte. We're very pleased to have you here, and thank you. Muchísimas gracias. Es un honor.
Embajador, aquí tenemos a Luisa, que representa a la colonia española de maravilla, y no hay ningún español que le tenga un poco. Todo el mundo la adora, porque está siempre a punto de ayudar a toda la colonia.
You're right.
Espero que una vez tengamos una reunión.
Yes, of course, and I'm very, very pleased and honored to be here with Luisa. I'm extraordinarily pleased to meet you here in Charlotte, in your town, and we'll be seeing you in Washington in a few weeks. So I want to take the opportunity to thank you and all the honorary consuls for the work you do. This is a huge country. I don't discovering a secret. The United States is a huge, huge country, and as we cannot from Washington, although we travel as much as we can, we ambassadors, we cannot cover the whole territory on a permanent basis. So we have to rely a lot on the work of our consul generals, professional consul generals. We have 8 in the United States, and the work of our honorary consuls. And this is the work that you do resides extraordinary, and we thank you for that.
There, and then to the second table, and then to Raul.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie Thielman. Welcome to Charlotte. I have more of a social question than a political question, so maybe that's a little break for you. I would like to know, I know there's a lot of difference between like a Spaniard's life and an American life, and what is something you would love for the Americans to pick up from the Spaniard lifestyle? And the answer cannot be siestas.
I don't know how to say. I mean, every country has its own way of understanding life, and I've been here now almost 15 years of my professional life. As a young diplomat in Washington, as consul general in Miami, it's been a wonderful experience, and now as ambassador of Spain in the United States. All in all, 15 years of my life I've been here. I greatly admire this country. For me, it's been really a privilege to serve in this country for almost 15 years in different positions. I really admire the United States of America, and I really think that we need your leadership and your example in the world. We still need it, and we want to support you, but we need the US leadership in the world. As far as our way of life, I don't know what to say. I think perhaps there is a thing in my country that we're still very attached to, how could I say, to family life. This is something that is very distinctive of Spain. We stick together for a long time. Children stay with their parents for a long time. Grandparents live with the parents. Family is a very strong bond. And I think this is perhaps one thing that is a bit different. Here, young people tend to leave for university a bit earlier because you have such a huge country. You live in different places of the world. You meet for Thanksgiving, that's for sure. But in Spain, we tend to stick together a lot. Sometimes, perhaps a bit too much. But I think this is something that is distinctive of my country. And I appreciate it. I don't know, Jose Luis, if you want to add something to our way of life, or.
Well, I think that that's one of our assets. And, there are many people that come to work and study in Spain just because of the way of living and the extra things that they find besides work and the study environment in our country. We have a huge cultural heritage. We have very good weather, very good gastronomy, incredible museums. So, we have I think, the right balance between the professional life and personal and leisure life. And that's one of our main assets. That's why we have. We are the second tourist destination in the world. Each year, before the pandemic, we received double our population in tourists. Every year we are around 46 million inhabitants in Spain, and we received every year more than 80 million people. So I think our way of living is one of the reasons for this, and it's one of our main assets. Also for investment consideration, and when companies are evaluating investing in Spain, that's the thing that they consider, because they know their workers are going to be good and well in our country. We have a very highly skilled labor population, so they know that they are going to find very good workers for their factories and the companies there. So yeah, I would say that it's one of our main economic assets. Besides the location that you mentioned, we are an American country, we are a European country, and we are a Mediterranean and North African country. So yeah, our location and our way of living are the main economic assets of Spain.
He took the opportunity to.
And there was a survey that came out the other day that said that Spaniards are less intrigued and less proud of Spain than the rest of us outside of Spain. And that's not been my experience. It's certainly, hearing from you guys, it's a lovely place and a place we all look to have traveled to or to travel. Yes, right there. Yes, sir.
Yes, you mentioned several things happening in the 21st century, one of which was globalization. And you said there's winners and losers. As a business guy, I certainly understand the winners part. Could you talk a little bit more about what you mean by losers and what we need to do to make them not lose so much?
All right, losers.
Yes, I have the feeling that there is certain frustration in many countries of the world that globalization has not been good for them. That globalization has meant jobs going to Asia, that has meant salaries going to Asia, and that at the end, globalization has not produced any tangible increase in the way of life, or any improvement for them, or any improvement in the hope that they have for their children. And this is causing frustration, and this is causing also the questioning of representative democracy. That is why I think examples, as I mentioned, productivity has increased thanks to globalization. Salaries have not increased at the same level that they used to. Before it was balanced. In the 1980s, the difference between high-level CEO or high-level responsible of a company was about 28 times the level of a worker in the same company. Now it's probably 250, 300. So that's what I meant, that there is a perception that not everybody has benefited from globalization, and that we should make an effort to humanize globalization, to make it more inclusive, to make it more acceptable for everyone, because then we will not have the political problems that we have, and we will not have this frustration growing in many parts of the world. We're seeing it in Latin America, in the streets of Latin America, in the streets of India, in the streets of many other places, including Europe, and certainly in the United States, so it's everywhere in the world. So that's what I meant by the need to humanize globalization.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, what do you think is missing from Spain's relationship with North Carolina during your time as the ambassador over the next few years? What do you hope to accomplish again, specifically with North Carolina? And my question is more around sort of economics rather than cultural, political, social. Thank you.
We want to increase our relations with all the states in the United States. We believe that the work of an embassy is not only to be done in Washington or New York, although the attraction force of Washington is terrible. There are always so many things to do that you don't travel enough around the country, but we want to do that. So we want to be more present, and we want to take advantage of the facilities that you offer in North Carolina for Spanish companies to be present here. And as Jose Luis said, we also want North Carolina's company to come to Spain and invest in Spain. We want citizens of North Carolina to come to Spain and perhaps buy property there, spend their time there. But we also want to increase the number of teachers here in your schools. This is an objective that I have. We don't have enough Spanish teachers in your program with North Carolina, and we want to have students from North Carolina coming to Spain. So in all fields, we feel that there's still more to do, and we're happy that we will count on Luisa, and we will count on our commercial trade and commercial office to try to increase those relationships. I don't know if you want to add something regarding the trade and investment possibilities.
Yeah, we have a considerable presence of Spanish companies here in North Carolina, not maybe in the Charlotte area, but more to the coast. We have the presence of several medium to large Spanish companies, but there is always room for improvement. And with all the possibilities that the U.S. administration is implementing right now, with all the investment plans and the budget plans that the U.S. administration, the federal administration is having, that they have to be implemented by the states. I'm referring to the Investment in Infrastructures and Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. With those opportunities are really good for Spanish companies, because they have a really good expertise and know-how in these sectors: transport infrastructures, energy, the energy transition to renewable energies. Here in North Carolina and in Virginia, we are doing a lot in offshore wind energy. So those are the things that we believe are going to increase the relationship with North Carolina. And as more companies are coming here, we'll have more U.S. companies and more North Carolinian companies going to Spain. And well, I could explain what benefits they will have. That if you want, you can contact me, and I will be very glad to explain all the good things about investing in Spain and the economic opportunities for those investments.
Thank you. And it looks like we're going to have room for just two more quick questions. This lady in table 2, and this we started talking about students. We're going to close out with a student question. But if you could ask your question, and then we're going to get this last question, and we'll let the ambassador answer both.
Hello, Ambassador. I'm Shay Howell. Thank you so much for your insightful comments today. Whenever I see so many students in a room, I always love to ask leaders, if you could go back to your younger self in that boarding school, what advice would you give yourself, knowing what you know now? What advice would you give yourself?
Great question. Freeze that for a minute, and we'll get this student question, and then wrap it up.
Ambassador, thank you for honoring our city by joining us here. My question is about the European Union and the citizens of Spain, sort of relationship therein. You talked a bit about the Spanish relationship with the EU as an entity and as a government, but how do sort of the citizens feel about it and interact with it, and how do you see that impacting Spain and the EU's relationship in the next 10 years or just near-term future in general? You said
the impact of
the feelings and the sentiments about the EU by the Spanish people and as sort of average Spanish citizens, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, I'll start with that. Spain is one of the countries that is more supportive of the European Union. This is because we Spaniards understand that it's been a crucial factor in the development of our nation. And so we're very, very pro-European. And perhaps because of our history too, we were great European power for centuries, but then we sort of were back looking inward during the 19th century, most of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. Thank you, Richie. So I think this is creating many opportunities for Spain to become really a trendsetter, a leader inside the European Union. And the ideas that I have mentioned, which are at the core of our foreign policy, the need to have a better world order, a multilateral efficient system, a more human globalization, a better, a more efficient representative democracy, are at the heart of what we believe should be the European of the future. We are also very much in favor of what we call strategic autonomy of the European Union, and this is why we're leaders in trying to get a more active defense policy inside the European Union. And that doesn't mean at all rejecting NATO alliance. On the contrary, we think it's complementary. But I think this sentiment is going to be very important in the way Spain acts inside the European Union and in the way we're going to hold our presidency of the Council starting next July. And on your question, it's difficult to answer because I would be reluctant to give advice. But what I've learned, what I started learning when I was young at the boarding school, when I decided that I wanted to devote my life to the international arena, I think the first lesson was that now, from all the perspective of all these years, so many years, 50 years in fact, we just celebrated last summer the 50th anniversary of leaving my boarding school. So it was an important event for me and for all of us. We keep in touch, which is also very good. I would advise to keep in touch with your friends from high school because that's an important part of your legacy. But I would say that the first lesson is that you need to balance humility and passion. You have to be humble in your life and in your professional life because there are always people that know more than you, that are more intelligent than you, that work harder than you. You have to be humble, but you have to have a passion. Without that passion, you will never succeed in your professional life. And you need to balance that passion, that strength within you, with a certain humility. And the second lesson that I have learned is that even with tiny little things, you can make a difference. And that we should all strive to make a difference, to work for a better world. Even if it's a tiny contribution, it makes a difference. Thank you.
Raj, who is the chair of the World Affairs Council, is going to come and close us out.
Well, on behalf of the World Affairs Council, I wanted to say a very, very big thank you again for your energy, your insights, your candor, and your genuine, authentic engagement with our audience here. So on behalf of the World Affairs Council, may I present to you a small token of appreciation. I think we're supposed to take a photograph. So